Welcome to Point Blank, brought to you by Fitz Roofing. I'm Brandon Stranger Sports Matt Houston. That's Joel Blank, co-host of The Killer Bees, which you can hear weekdays, noon to 3 on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5, or anytime on demand from your preferred podcast provider. And while you're here watching this, hit subscribe on the channel, click that bell for notifications. We are one of the very few channels that is dedicated exclusively to Houston sports, so we do appreciate all the support we can get. Hey, Joel, welcome in. This story dropped at the end of last week, but it's definitely worth circling back to, and I always like talking about these topics with you. Joel Sherman wrote a piece for the New York Post in which, here's another New York writer who just can't keep the Astros out of his mouth. We wondered how the media would respond to the Astros having a bounce back season this year, since so many of them took the opportunity in a COVID-shortened season to say, see, here's proof the Astros were cheating. They're not doing as well. Well, now in the face of evidence that shows the Astros are still a good team, the narrative has turned predictably to this. They didn't need to steal signs, and that makes it even worse. Look, color me shocked that a New York writer has found a way to say once again that the Astros are even worse than we all thought. And I'm honestly a little conflicted on this take. I want to know where you come out on this.
I mean, look, at a certain point, you just got to kind of shake the haters off. And that's why it's so vitally important for the Astros to make a statement in the postseason this year. Because if they do, it basically just stifles once and for all the narratives about cheating and how bad they were. I mean, we forget about the fact that in the Mets-Yankees series, that the Yankees were still getting fingers pointed at them for stealing signs. So the fact that any Yankee fan or New York honk wants to come back and keep pointing fingers at the Astros, it's just to try and draw more attention to themselves because they haven't even come close to living up to their expectations over the last several years, and the Astros have. Just makes it even harder for them to swallow. And instead of looking internally or in the mirror and placing the blame where it firmly belongs within the organization and the team and the management, they're going to point it outwardly towards anybody else that they can possibly blame so that they can kind of deflect. So Sherman deflects, the Astros accept, and guess what? The Astros also accept the fact that they're going to be one of the top two teams in the American League when the season finishes. They're going to be sitting in a good spot going into the playoffs. And like I said, if they can make a strong run yet again and win this thing, there's no one that can say anything any further because the team is just that good.
Well, without a hint of irony, Sherman neglects to mention the fact that MLB is actively trying to keep that letter sealed regarding the Yankee sign stealing. That's not even mentioned in the article. And like I was saying, in Sherman's article, I'm with him to a certain point as far as this season kind of exonerating, or maybe not exonerating, but at least making the 2017 a little bit more valid, the 2017 World Series. But he lost me all the way on this next part, and we'll talk about that. But first, hit me with a word from Fitz Roofing.
We love the people at Fitz Roof, and they're dedicated to the people of Houston, and they do so much more than just roof repairs. They can put a whole new roof or fix the roof on your business or your house. They can do home repairs around your house. They can put a fence in your yard. They do everything. It starts with a free no obligation inspection, and all you got to do is call 832-521-3001, and they will come to you and tell you what they can do. If you want them to come back, schedule the appointment, and rest assured they will do the great work every single time with great customer service and the best ratings, products, and warranties in the business. Fitz Roofing, making a difference one home at a time.
Okay, so Sherman dropped a little line in this article with no citation and then moves on, and I have to address it. He says, quote, Houston might have been ground zero for pitchers illegally weaponizing extreme sticky substances, end quote. So unlike Andy Martino, who's another New York writer who wrote an entire book smearing the 2019 Astros with anonymous sources, Sherman doesn't even give stats to back up that claim. He just drops it and moves on, which probably is just indicative of the state of journalism in 2021. But what do you think of that statement, that the Astros were ground zero for sticky substances?
It's absolutely ridiculous. And the only, the follow-up to that would be if you could ever get the guy where you could question him and put him on the spot where he had to answer it is, so you're saying that your best pitcher who basically admitted he's been using it and that he got caught using it as a Yankee, you're going to tell me that it's still all the Astros' fault? It's just another attempt by a New York honk to try and get clicks and deflect blame instead of actually internalizing it and being honest enough to accept the fact these things are going on all across baseball. I'm sure it's the hip, cool thing on the East Coast to do. Hey, when in doubt, blame the Astros. But at the end of the day, the Red Sox, the Yankees, you can line them up and you can start taking names and numbers and realize that, you know what, this is a pandemic across the entire sport. sport, from the sign stealing to the spider tack to a whole lot of things in between. It's really cool to blame just one team, but in honesty, basically everybody was doing it. And if you're not doing it, you're not trying to win.
No, I agree. I think it's funny that, lost in all this are Carlos Beltran's quote about coming from New York and saying the Astros were behind in their sign stealing, and the fact that literal ground zero for spider tack was the Angels clubhouse. So the hypocrisy continues. We'll keep talking about it as these guys keep writing about it. We'll talk to you soon.